The signal and response. The signal arrived at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Array on an otherwise unremarkable Thursday morning. Lieutenant Danny Mercer had been running standard sweep protocols when the transmission broke through the cosmic background noise. Faint, distorted, but unmistakably artificial. "Commander," she called, removing her neural interface headset. "I got something you need to hear." Commander Weizong crossed the control room quickly, his expression shifting from routine boredom to focused interest. "Source: approximately 22 light-years out. Ta City system," Mercer replied, fingers dancing across her console. "It's repeating on a loop. I've run it through the translation matrix." The station's speakers crackled as the message played. "To any civilized species who receives this transmission, this is High Architect Lasson of the Kilari Concordance. Our worlds face imminent destruction. A collective entity we call the Void Swarm has consumed 3 of our outer colonies. They adapt to all countermeasures. They cannot be reasoned with. They only consume. Our defense fleet is decimated. We estimate 14 solar cycles before our homeworld falls. Please, if anyone can render aid, the Kilari will forever be in your debt." The message repeated, then dissolved into static. Commander Zhang's face hardened. "Authenticate and forward to UNSC headquarters. Priority Alpha." Within 6 hours, the United Nations Space Command had convened an emergency council. Captain Soren Reeves stood at rigid attention before the assembled leadership, his weathered face betraying nothing as Admiral Helena Ortega outlined the situation. "The Kilari are crystalline silicon-based lifeforms," she explained, displaying holographic images of elegant, translucent beings with faceted bodies that seemed to shimmer with inner light. "They're primarily scientists, philosophers, and artists. Since humanity joined the Galactic Confederation 3 years ago, we've had limited contact with them, mostly cultural exchanges. They possess minimal military capabilities." "And these Void Swarm creatures?" asked Counselor Diallo, leaning forward. "Unknown," Ortega admitted. "Nothing in Confederation records matches their description. The Kilari transmissions describe them as a hive-minded collective of biomechanical entities that consume all organic and inorganic resources, learning and adapting with each encounter." The council chamber erupted with voices. Councilor Santos raised a hand for silence. "We're still establishing our position in interstellar politics. The Confederation barely accepted our membership. Is it wise to commit military assets to a conflict involving species we barely know?" Captain Reeves finally spoke, his deep voice cutting through the debate. "Permission to address the council?" Admiral Ortega nodded. "Councilors, when humanity reached for the stars, we discovered we weren't alone. But we also discovered something about ourselves. Other species call us Deathworlders because Earth's high gravity, extreme climate variations, and evolutionary pressures created beings they consider inherently dangerous." Reeves paused, looking each counselor in the eye. "They fear us because we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us daily, and we not only survived but thrived. Now we have a chance to show the galaxy that being dangerous isn't the same as being destructive. We can use our strength to protect, not conquer." The council chamber fell silent. Admiral Ortega smiled slightly. "The Confederation powers are monitoring our response," Reeves continued. "They're watching to see if the Deathworlders will extend a hand in alliance or close a fist in indifference." The debate continued for hours before the final vote. When the council adjourned, Captain Reeves had his orders: lead Earth's first interstellar rescue mission. 3 days later, Reeves stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, Earth's most advanced battle cruiser. Around him, crew members worked with practiced efficiency as the ship prepared to depart Earth orbit. 5 other warships had joined the response force: the destroyers Valkyrie and Nemesis, the cruisers Defiant and Relentless, and the carrier Ares with its complement of fighter squadrons. "Status report, XO," Reeves ordered as his second-in-command approached. Commander Amara Okafor handed him a data tablet. "All systems optimal, sir. The fleet is ready for departure. We've loaded the latest translation matrices for Kilari language, and Dr. Patel has studied their biology in case we need to provide medical assistance. Reeves nodded. And tactical. Lieutenant Commander Jackson has been running simulations based on the Kilari data. Without knowing the swarm's capabilities, it's mostly educated guesswork. We'll adapt, Reeves said, turning his attention to the view screen where Earth hummed like a blue marble against the void. Prepare for address to the fleet. As the ships prepared for FTL jump, Reeves spoke to the combined crews. Men and women of Earth, today we embark on humanity's first mission to defend another species. The Confederation calls us Deathworlders, evolved on a high-gravity planet with predators, diseases, and natural disasters that forged us into what they consider dangerous beings. Today, we prove that being dangerous can also mean being the most determined defenders. The Thunderbolt's engines hummed as energy built for the jump. Prepare for faster-than-light travel, announced the ship's AI, Athena. The stars on the view screen elongated into brilliant streaks as the fleet leaped toward the TOS City system. The journey took 11 days of FTL travel with brief returns to normal space for system checks and course corrections. Captain Reeves used the time to prepare his crew, running combat simulations and strategy sessions. Morale remained high, though tension mounted as they approached their destination. On the 11th day, the fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the TOS City system. The bridge fell silent as sensors began scanning. Captain, Lieutenant Mercer at Sensors spoke first, her voice tight. Multiple large objects detected in orbit around the fourth planet. Configuration doesn't match any known Confederation designs. Magnify, ordered Reeves. The view screen showed dark, angular ships that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. They orbited a crystalline world that sparkled like a diamond, but with visible black scars spreading across its surface. Are those the Void Swarm? Asked Commander Okafor. Seems likely, Reeves replied grimly. Open a channel to the Kilari homeworld. After several tense minutes, the view screen flickered, revealing a being that seemed carved from living crystal. Its translucent body contained flowing patterns of light that shifted with its movements. This is High Architect Lasson of the Kilari Concordance, it said, its voice melodious despite the obvious distress. Identify yourselves. I am Captain Soren Reeves of the United Earth Space Command. We received your distress signal and have come to render assistance. The crystalline being's inner lights pulsed rapidly. The Deathworlders. You actually came. The Kilari seemed both shocked and uncertain. We sent our call to many worlds. None responded until now. We're here, Reeves confirmed. We need to know what we're facing. Can you transmit all available data on the Void Swarm vessels and their capabilities? Yes, of course, Laswin replied, gesturing with a crystalline appendage. We are sending everything we have documented. But, Captain, these entities have destroyed every defense we mounted. They seem to adapt to any strategy within hours. Adaptation is something humans understand very well, High Architect, Reeves said with grim determination. We'll approach with caution but intend to engage. Is there somewhere your people can shelter? Our underground crystal caverns currently house most of our population, Laswin explained. But the swarm has begun landing excavation units. We have perhaps 4 planetary rotations before they reach the deepest shelters. Then we have no time to waste, Reeves concluded. Stand by for our approach. As the transmission ended, Reeves turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, analyze the Kilari data as soon as it arrives. I want to know everything about this swarm before we engage. Aye, Captain. The fleet moved deeper into the system, maintaining a defensive formation. Within an hour, Jackson had preliminary findings. The swarm vessels appear to be biomechanical in nature, he reported. They have powerful energy weapons, adaptive shielding, and self-repair capabilities. The Kilari attempted conventional attacks, energy weapons, even targeted electromagnetic pulses. Nothing worked for long. What about their behavior? Reeves asked. Attack patterns, command structure. They operate almost like a hive mind, Jackson explained. Perfect coordination, instant response to threats. But there's evidence suggesting one vessel acts as a nexus. He highlighted one larger vessel on the tactical display. This one sends more signals than it receives. Reeves studied the display thoughtfully. So they adapt quickly, work in perfect coordination, and have superior technology. He looked up at his officers, but they've never faced humans before. The Thunderbolt sensors chimed in alert. Captain, Mercer called out, 3 swarm vessels are altering course. They've detected us. All vessels, battle formation Delta, Reeves ordered. Cruisers to the center, destroyers form the perimeter. Carrier airs, maintain distance, and prepare fighter squadrons. Hold fire until my command. The Earth fleet moved into position as the swarm ships approached, 3 of them breaking away from the Kilari homeworld's orbit to intercept the newcomers. They're scanning us, reported Mercer. Intensive electromagnetic probes. Let them look, Reeves said. I want to see how they react to unfamiliar technology. The lead swarm ship suddenly accelerated, closing the distance faster than expected. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out, striking the destroyer Valkyrie's forward shields. Shields holding at 68%, came the report from the Valkyrie. That was just a warning shot, Captain. They could have hit us with more power. They're testing us, Reeves observed. Let's show them what humans can do. Target the lead vessel. Concentrated fire from all ships. The Earth fleet responded in unison, energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, unleashing a barrage at the lead swarm ship. Most shots impacted its dark hull, but the vessel appeared to absorb much of the energy. Minimal damage to target, Jackson reported. They're adjusting their shields already. Adapting. Rotate weapon frequencies, Reeves ordered. Randomized pattern. The fleet's next volley struck with greater effect, piercing the swarm's defenses in several places. The alien vessel shuddered, dark fluid leaking from its wounds. They're responding, Mercer called out. All 3 ships accelerating to attack positions. What followed was unlike any space combat humanity had ever engaged in. The swarm vessels moved with uncanny coordination, firing precisely at the Earth ship's weakest points. The destroyer Nemesis took heavy damage within minutes, but the humans fought back with creativity that seemed to confuse the swarm. When the aliens adapted to one tactic, the Earth fleet switched to another. Their coordination is incredible, Okafor remarked as they watched the battle unfold, but they seem puzzled by our randomness. That's our advantage, Reeves replied. Continue unpredictable maneuvers. All ships implement chaos protocol. The Earth vessels broke formation, each executing seemingly independent actions that nevertheless formed part of a larger strategy. The swarm's perfect coordination began to work against them as they struggled to develop a unified response to the humans' apparent disorder. A critical moment came when the Thunderbolt feigned retreat, luring one of the swarm vessels into an ambush. As it pursued, the Valkyrie and Defiant emerged from behind Ta Siti's outer planet, unleashing a concentrated attack on the isolated enemy. The swarm ship's hull buckled under the assault, its systems failing as the humans targeted the same sections repeatedly, giving it no chance to repair. In a final burst of energy, the vessel exploded, fragments scattering across space. First blood to us, Reeves announced grimly. But they learned fast. The remaining ships are already adjusting their tactics. Indeed, the 2 surviving swarm vessels have pulled back, maintaining distance while continuing to fire more precisely at the Earth ships. Captain, Mercer called urgently. I'm detecting signals from the larger swarm ships in orbit. They're all accelerating toward our position. How many? Asked Reeves. 8 more vessels, Mercer confirmed, including what appears to be their Nexus ship. Reeves surveyed the situation. The Earth fleet had scored a victory, but at a cost. The Nemesis was heavily damaged, the Valkyrie's shields were failing, and the other ships had sustained varying degrees of injury. All vessels regroup at coordinates Alpha 3, he ordered. We need to reassess. As the Earth ships pulled back to a defensive position near Ta City's outer moon, Reeves opened a channel to High Architect Laswin. We've managed to destroy one of their ships, but the rest are mobilizing against us, he reported. We need a new strategy. Laswin's crystalline form pulsed with both fear and hope. You've achieved more than we ever could, Captain. Our scientists have been analyzing the battle data. There may be something we can offer. We're listening, Reeves said. The swarm ships are partially biological, Laswin explained. Our bioresonance scanners have identified certain frequencies that disrupt their neural pathways. Our weapons weren't powerful enough to exploit this weakness, but perhaps yours. Reeves nodded decisively. Send us the frequency data. We'll modify our weapons accordingly. As the transmission ended, Reeves turned to his officers. We've bloodied their nose, and now they're taking us seriously. The real battle is about to begin. Deathworlders unleashed. The Void Swarm fleet advanced in perfect formation, 10 biomechanical vessels moving as one organism. On the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, Captain Reeves and his officers watched the enemy approach with grim determination. Modifications to weapon systems complete, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson. All ships report ready. The Kilari have provided shelter coordinates, added Commander Okafor. Their major population centers are here, here, and here. She indicated several locations on the planetary display. All underground crystal caverns, but the swarm is deploying ground units to dig them out. Reeves nodded, his expression resolute. Then we fight on two fronts. We need to engage their fleet while getting boots on the ground to protect the Kilari shelters. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to all ships. When the connection was established, Reeves addressed the combined crews of the Earth fleet. This is Captain Reeves. The situation is straightforward. We are outnumbered and facing an enemy with superior technology. But throughout our history, humans have faced such odds and prevailed. The Void Swarm has never encountered our kind before. They don't understand what they're facing. He paused, looking at the determined faces on his view screen. They call us Deathworlders because we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Our ancestors survived predators, diseases, natural disasters, and each other. We carry that legacy in our DNA. The refusal to surrender, the creativity that comes from desperation, the instinct that makes us protect not just our own, but anyone under our care. His voice hardened. Today, the Kilari are under our protection. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten a species allied with Earth. Battle plan, Irregular Thunder commences in 5 minutes. Prepare yourselves. Across the fleet, weapons powered up. In launch bays, Marines equipped for ground deployment boarded dropships. Medical teams prepared for casualties. All ships acknowledge ready, Captain, reported Okafor. Reeves nodded. Execute Irregular Thunder, Phase 1. The Earth fleet suddenly split into 3 groups. The smallest group, led by the damaged Nemesis, broke away and appeared to flee. The second group, including the Thunderbolt and Defiant, moved to engage the approaching swarm directly. The third group, the Carrier Ares and the Relentless, disappeared behind Ta City's second moon. The swarm vessels, seemingly confused by this unconventional behavior, divided their forces. 6 ships pursued the main battle group, while 4 peeled off to chase the apparently retreating Nemesis. They took the bait, Okafor observed. Phase 2, ordered Reeves. The Thunderbolt and Defiant suddenly accelerated directly toward the 6 approaching swarm vessels, while launching a barrage of small, unmanned drones. The drones broadcast contradictory signals, creating electronic noise that seemed to confuse the swarm's coordination. Meanwhile, the retreating Nemesis abruptly reversed course, its damaged appearance masking weapons that had been reconfigured based on the Kilari data. It fired directly at the pursuing swarm vessels, its beams pulsing with the specific bioresonance frequencies that disrupted the swarm's neural networks. Two of the pursuing vessels shuddered, their movements becoming erratic. The other two adapted quickly, but the Kilari frequencies had bought precious seconds. From behind the moon, the Ares launched its fighter squadrons, the small, agile craft swarming the disoriented swarm ships from multiple vectors. Phase 3, Reeves commanded. The Relentless broke orbit from the moon, escorting a dozen marine dropships that raced toward the Kilari homeworld. The swarm's ground forces had already begun excavating, massive drill-like appendages boring into the crystalline surface. Marine Commander Maya Ortiz led the ground assault, her voice crackling over the comms. First and second platoons, target those diggers. Third platoon with me. We're establishing a perimeter around the main shelter entrance. The dropships scattered, evading swarm anti-aircraft fire to deploy Marines at strategic locations. Unlike the coordinated perfection of the swarm, the humans fought with controlled chaos, unpredictable, aggressive, and utterly determined. Back in space, the battle intensified. The swarm vessels had regrouped, adapting to the humans' tactics, but the Earth fleet kept changing approaches. When the swarm developed countermeasures to the Kilari frequencies, the Thunderbolt switched to kinetic weapons. When they adapted to those, the Defiant deployed electromagnetic pulse mines. Their adaptation rate is increasing, reported Jackson, his face grim. They're learning our patterns faster now. Then we stop using patterns, Reeves replied. All ships implement Chaos Protocol final stage. The Earth vessels began executing seemingly random maneuvers, firing at unpredictable intervals with constantly changing weapon configurations. It wasn't truly random. Each ship's AI was running complex game theory algorithms, ensuring their apparent chaos maintained strategic coherence. But to the swarm's hive mind, the behavior appeared impossible to predict. On the Kilari surface, the Marines faced similar challenges. The swarm ground forces, insectoid biomechanical entities, adapted quickly to standard tactics. Commander Ortiz responded by splitting her forces into small, autonomous squads that operated independently but remained connected through encrypted channels. They can't predict what they can't understand, she told her troops. Hit and fade, never establish a pattern. For 2 grueling hours, the battle raged across space and on the crystalline world below. The Earth forces suffered heavy losses. The Nemesis was destroyed, the Valkyrie crippled. On the ground, the Marines held their positions at terrible cost, fighting with the ferocity that had earned humans their Deathworlder reputation. The turning point came when the Thunderbolt managed to isolate the swarm's Nexus vessel. Using the confusion created by the humans' unpredictable tactics, Reeves had maneuvered his ship into position for a desperate gambit. All power to forward shields, he ordered. Prepare for ramming speed. Commander Okafor looked startled. Sir, not an actual ram, Reeves clarified. I want them to think we're attempting a suicide run. The Thunderbolt accelerated directly toward the Nexus vessel, its shields straining under concentrated fire from the swarm. At the last possible moment, the cruiser veered off, but not before launching its entire complement of modified missiles directly at the Nexus ship's communication array. The missiles detonated in a precisely timed sequence, each explosion weakening the shields for the next impact. The final warhead penetrated the swarm vessel's hull, delivering its payload, a concentrated burst of the Kilari bioresonance frequency, amplified and modified by Earth's quantum technology. The Nexus ship convulsed, its coordinating signals dissolving into chaotic noise. Across the system, the other swarm vessels faltered, their perfect synchronization shattered. On the planet below, the ground forces became disorganized, some freezing in place, others attacking in random directions. All ships, Reeves commanded, concentrate fire on the Nexus vessel. Don't give them time to establish a new command structure. The Earth fleet converged, unleashing everything they had left. The Nexus ship's self-repair systems struggled to compensate, but the humans' onslaught was too varied, too unpredictable. Critical systems failed in cascading sequence. When the Nexus vessel finally exploded in a brilliant flash, the remaining swarm ships didn't retreat. They simply lost cohesion. Some drifted aimlessly, others attacked with diminished effectiveness. Without their central coordination, they reverted to more primitive behaviors that the Earth ships could manage despite their damage. On the surface, Commander Ortiz reported similar results. The ground units are disorganized, Captain. We're mopping them up sector by sector. The Kilari shelters are secure. 6 hours after the Nexus ship's destruction, the last swarm vessel was neutralized. The battle for Ta City was over. 2 days later, Captain Reeves stood in the Grand Crystal Chamber of the Kilari Concordance. High Architect Lasun and the Kilari Council surrounded him, their bodies pulsing with the blue-white light of profound emotion. "The Kilari people owe you a debt we can never repay," Lasun said, its melodious voice echoing through the chamber. "You came when no one else would. You fought for a species not your own. You sacrificed your ships and your people for our survival." Reeves, his uniform bearing the marks of battle, inclined his head. "We did what any sentient being should do when they hear a cry for help. But others did not," another counselor noted. "The Confederation powers ignored our plea. Only Earth responded." "Perhaps they misunderstand what it means to be a Deathworlder," Reeves suggested. "They see our strength and assume we must be conquerors. They don't realize that surviving on a world that constantly tests you creates not just physical resilience, but moral purpose." Lasun's crystalline form shimmered. "The Void Swarm has plagued this sector for centuries, appearing without warning to consume all in their path. Many civilizations have fallen. None found a way to defeat them, until now. Your scientists gave us the key," Reeves responded. "The bioresonance frequency was crucial, but ineffective without your implementation," Lasun countered. "Our analysis suggests why. The swarm functions through perfect coordination, a unified consciousness distributed across many bodies. They evolve through consistent patterns, predictable adaptations. Its inner lights pulsed with new intensity. But humans, you are magnificently unpredictable. Your chaotic tactics confuse their collective mind. You think as individuals even while acting together." "Evolutionary legacy of Earth," Reeves said with a slight smile. "Constant danger creates constant innovation." The crystalline being raised what approximated an arm. "The Kilari Concordance formally requests an alliance with Earth. We offer our science, our resources, and our friendship, and we will speak to the Confederation on your behalf. The galaxy should know that the Deathworlders from Earth are not to be feared, but welcomed as protectors." Captain Reeves extended his hand, and after a moment of hesitation, Lasun extended its crystalline appendage to touch it. "Alliance accepted, High Architect. Earth stands with the Kilari." As he returned to the Thunderbolt for the journey home, Reeves received a transmission from Admiral Ortega. Her face on the view screen showed both pride and concern. "Congratulations, Captain. Word of your victory is spreading throughout the Confederation. The diplomatic implications are significant. For better or worse?" Reeves asked. "Both," Ortega admitted. "Some see you as heroes. Others are unsettled by the demonstration of Earth's military capabilities. But all agree on one thing. Humanity has proven we're more than just dangerous Deathworlders." Reeves gazed out at the stars as the Thunderbolt prepared for the jump home. "Perhaps that's the lesson here, Admiral. In a galaxy that feared us for our strength, we found purpose in protection rather than dominance." The Admiral nodded. The response fleet was designated as Operation Guardian Shield. I think the name proved prophetic. "Guardian Shield," Reeves repeated thoughtfully. "I like the sound of that." As the Thunderbolt's engines hummed with building energy, Reeves gave the order to return to Earth. Behind them, the Kilari homeworld glittered like a diamond in the void, scared but unbroken, saved by the unexpected alliance with the Deathworlders who answered their call. In the months that followed, 17 more species joined the Earth-Killary Alliance. The Confederation powers, initially alarmed, eventually recognized the emerging coalition as a stabilizing force in the sector. And when another distress call echoed across the stars 9 months later, it was answered not just by Earth, but by a united fleet of former enemies turned allies. The Deathworlders had found their purpose in the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians.